Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. I know that Julian will not admit that the first message he ever sent me read, "Dear Mark, I would like to invite you to a very popular annual event called GibWalks." Wow! I thought, this is really great. This is what I do. I was very excited and started to prepare by walking every day. Imagine my disappointment when his next message said, "Oops, I meant GibTalks." Thank you, Julian. Now, some of you might know that on average, it takes a person 1 hour to walk 4 kilometers, or 1 kilometer in 15 minutes. I would like to take you on a journey of 7,500 kilometers of 10 million footsteps, 5 pairs of sandals through 12 countries, mostly on foot, some on bicycle, 8 months of my life on pilgrimage. The equivalent distance of going around the rock 700 times. And I hope you can stay with me for the next 15 minutes. I remember trying to visualize the path that lay ahead and how my arrival to the Holy Land would be. It seemed impossible, something on the other side of beyond. I had many doubts. Would I make it? I've had to abandon walks before. It could happen again. Now, the most important thing for the success of my mission are my feet. The first Camino I ever walked was the hardest. I suffered from terrible blisters and started to walk funny. Worst of all, my back gave up, and after 4 days of being jabbed with painkillers on my backside, I hobbled back out onto the trail, determined to carry on. It was then that I laid my boots to rest. Here we go. And started using sandals. My feet had been freed from the leather cage. Immediately, it felt better, and I began to enjoy the walk as I focused on the trail and forgot about my pain. Now, let me assure you, if I did not walk in sandals, I could not accomplish such long distances, day after day, for weeks and months, walking with a heavy load over all types of terrain and through some pretty horrific weather. Allow me now to take you on the trail with me. It is April. The weather is unpredictable and merciless. Rain falls on me all day. The wind is chilly and the road slippery. My sandals are covered in mud. My backpack is heavy and my feet ache. Sleeping in a different bed every night takes time to get used to. After wrestling with the sheets, I finally fall asleep. The first few days are always the hardest, as it takes a little time to toughen up. For many years, I have wanted to connect Gibraltar to Santiago de Compostela, Rome, and Jerusalem. Why? Well, the Rock is my home, and the other 3, the great Christian pilgrim destinations. Many more pilgrims walk to Santiago than Rome, and very few get to Jerusalem. Having walked to Santiago over a dozen times, I wanted to try longer distances. Once, I walked for 55 days, a distance of 1,600 kilometers. On another occasion, for 75 days from Cardiff to Gibraltar, 2,200 kilometers, my walk to the Rock. These served as the best possible preparation for my pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Doubts aside, I knew what I was getting into and understood the risks involved on the way. The road to Santiago is called the Way of the Sword, where one faces his demons and comes to terms with his fears. Will I get injured? Will I get lost? The trail to Rome is also known the Way of the Heart, where pilgrims seek divine love. Here, I never felt alone, made friends for life, and came face to face with His Holiness the Pope. And the path to Jerusalem is called the Way of the Soul, where one must search deep within for meaning to our existence, and in a journey which I am still traveling through. People often ask, what keeps me going, pushing on? They ask how important it is to be fit. Years back, during a military exercise, I took a bad fall, which resulted in a compressed spine, 2 herniated discs, and chronic neck and back pain. The doctors told me to walk, so I walk. Whilst fitness is important, there are other crucial factors which spur me on and make me want to continue through the hardest of times. At the top of my list is motivation. Some might call this faith. Next, I would say a strong will. In my case, stubbornness. Following this, for me, comes a desire to succeed. We all have ambition. Also important is a strong belief in your capabilities, whilst at the same time understanding your limitations. In other words, being realistic. And lastly, enjoying what I do. For if I don't like doing it, I know it will be a lot harder. Meanwhile, back on the trail, it is day 30, a month on the road. Every morning I wake up, pack for the day. Will it rain or will it be sunny? I make sure I face the right direction and move on. This is my life now, my whole world. There is a corridor in my mind which will lead me to Santiago, then towards Rome, and finally Jerusalem. I have slowed down my pace and started walking shorter distances. This is only day 30, just 1 month. And during the next few months, I would face numerous complications. Finding the right direction was not easy. I went the wrong way and got lost a few times. I walked through heavy traffic and feared for my safety when I found myself facing a speeding bus and had a honking lorry at my back. Looking for accommodation was very difficult at times, and I had to walk the extra distance. My rucksack was always heavy. That was carrying too much weight, water, food, and other essentials. And in France, when my sandal strap broke, I was lucky to have the sandal doctor with me, our very own Michael Pisarello. He took out a massive roll of duct tape, wrapped it all round, and fixed my sick sandal. Michael carried a lot of useful things with him, including bananas. I walked through floods in Spain and Portugal and felt the tremors of a 6.2 earthquake in Italy. In Albania, my journey was suddenly halted when a river burst its banks and everything was covered in mud for miles. Dogs are a real problem. Always watch out for the sheep, as dogs come with them. Now, I can understand these. They are doing their job, protecting the sheep. But in Greece, I was chased by dogs nearly every day, starving, abandoned dogs which live on the outskirts of towns. But worst of all is loneliness. On my own for so long, I confronted my demons. With every step, observed changes to the world around me and changes to the world inside me. I kept on asking myself, is this worth it? Now imagine now, back on the trail, it is mid-July, very hot, and I walk through the flat marshland of the Camargue by the River Rhone Delta. I am carrying 4 liters of water. That's 4 kilograms extra. It is 3.5 months since I started. I am about to enter the wonderful ancient Roman city of Arles in southern France. I reach the center, sit by the obelisk, and contemplate 2,000 years of history and my 3,000 kilometers walked so far from Gibraltar. I had never walked that much in my life and came to understand that what had prevented me from reaching that distance before were not material impediments, but rather mountains of the soul, psychological barriers I had erected. It felt great, and I knew I had gone over a forbidden threshold. Over 1,000 kilometers later, I was in Rome, the eternal city. Picture the following: the Vatican, the Wednesday audience. I had arrived in the Holy See, walking thousands of kilometers under the blistering summer sun. And now, Pope Francis approaches. He takes my hands. I tell him who I am and what I'm doing. I ask him to pray for me, to give me the strength and the faith to reach Jerusalem. He smiles, makes the sign of the cross on my forehead, and wishes me Godspeed on my journey. The Pope. Next stop, Jerusalem. I walk north for another 1,000 kilometers. First, along the spine of Italy over the Apennine Mountains, then across the fertile flat lands around the River Po, and eventually get to the magical city of Venice. I cross Slovenia and walk for weeks on hard roads along the coast of Croatia. It is here that my demons finally catch up with me. I have been walking on a damaged foot for over a month. My knees and back suffered, and I found myself exhausted, no matter how little or how far I walked. By now, another friend, Francis Brancato, had joined me. He saw the state I was in, and I remember he said, "Mark, you can either call it quits, go home and come back another time, or you can bike it. Gibraltar to Dubrovnik, 212 days, over 6,000 kilometers walked. What more do I need to say?" I continued on bicycle through Montenegro, Albania, Macedonia, and Greece. During the way, I realized that the most meaningful journey is the inner path of spiritual enlightenment. As I traveled, I opened my heart to those I felt needed something from me, and began to see how insignificant and at the same time intensely significant we all are. As I accepted the true grandeur of my pilgrimage, faced the immensity and true splendor of nature, and encountered the best mankind has to offer, I began to understand a little better the purpose of life and how I fit in, how we are all connected by the past, our ancestors, and the values we hold dear today. The way is an inner journey of discovery, where I learned about my fears, love, friendship, about myself and humanity, but above all else, humility. Only in my dreams had I imagined getting to Israel. Jesus walked this land. I tread on holy soil and feel the butterflies in the pit of my stomach. April the 1st, day 1, Gibraltar. Day 49, Santiago. Day 150, Rome. Prickly bushes and loose rocks are not kind to my feet, but I am glad to be on foot again. I stop, remove a pebble from my sandal. Every hill, every bush ignites my imagination as I rerun Bible stories from my youth. Was it here? Could this be the place? This hill, this stone, this tree? Could an apostle once have stood at this same spot? The enormity of it all. Pilgrimage, saints, faith, and enduring this far. Day 254, Jerusalem. I walk across Judea, and finally I pray at the wall, the dome, and at Christ's tomb. It was the most amazing and extremely challenging adventure. I have walked through pouring rain and floods, through choking heat and shivering cold, up through mountains and highlands. My path led me to navigate dangerous highways and overpopulated cities, to lose myself through spectacular nature reserves. I have slept on beaches, convents, church halls, caravans, passed through cities older than any modern nation, walked on ancient trails, through spring, through summer, and autumn. Now, nearly 2 years after leaving on pilgrimage, I know that I can accomplish and withstand a whole lot more than I think I can. I also know that I don't need or even want much more than what I can carry on my back. But the most important thing I have learned is to be true to myself and continue to search for my own way. Thank you for staying with me for the time it takes to walk 1 kilometer. Thank you.
Thank you.